Hey, ladies and gentlemen, come dive into the open minds where you can broaden your perspectives, expand your horizons, and open your eyes to a reality never thought possible. Just remember, once you open that door, there's no going back. I am your host, Robbie Diesel. This is the Open Mind Show. This is episode 16. And I guess I could say we have a show regular now. This is your second time on the show. My boy Monty, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? How you doing, man? Good to be back. Good to be back.
I'm good, man, and I'm glad you are back. Tonight's episode is going to be misinformation overload, and basically we're just going to be touching on misinformation. Try our best from a non-biased standpoint. I'm guilty of being biased on certain things, so I can't guarantee
Upbringing, environment, thoughts,
Yeah,
everything, music,
I can't
life.
guarantee that it's going to be 100%, but we're going to do our best. So bear with us. But so basically, what is misinformation? The definition I looked up was false or incorrect information that can or cannot be purposely given to deceive. So
I agree.
with that, what you have an example right off the top of your head of some misinformation so we can jump into this?
Uh, uh, wow. Oh man, that's a hard one. But just to go off, some sort of example is like we we're discussing a little bit was like this whole crack pipe, which by the way, we really don't know the information of it yet. But from what we've heard thus far, people claiming that Biden's, unveiling a drug program or whatever, funding grants and stuff. And one of those grants was to fund kits for drug addicts. And people were claiming that they were going to put actual crack pipes in the kits, which actually, when I first heard about it, I thought two things. I thought, one, it was just a similar program that they ran in other countries. But two, I also thought like, kind of going into the misinformation thing, is I was thinking like, this is great. Like they made a big deal about this. So two things happened. One, they were really going to put crack pipes in a kit. Two, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But now they're saying that was never even in the plan. We don't know what you guys are talking about. And so, and people supposedly checked the original plan. And yes, there were kits, but there were not crack pipes included. Point being, misinformation, kind of lots of, I heard you just say it a little while ago when we were just talking before the episode, overload of information that you had said. And that really makes a lot of sense, because it's really what's happening is like, that's just an overload of information. And when you think about it, like to put in like a 6-hour research on a law that passed on grants or something for crack pipes, like for what? Like how much, at what point is information valuable? And then at what information are we going to do research on? You know what I mean? Like how much can we research misinformation that's given us? So with a misinformation with the information overload, there's no way you could decipher through all the garbage and figure out what's real, what's not. I think we're at like a crucial point in history, crucial, where it is extremely easy to change somebody's mind, like very easy.
Absolutely. And do you think the internet has made it more easier?
Yeah, well, the internet was the beginning of it, I believe, but it's like the further is deeper than that is like social media and stuff is the biggest culprit, because really, if you think about it, like, 20 years ago, you would have to really know what you were talking about to get an article in the New York Times or on Fox News, even, that some people might say is, whatever, bias, but whatever it was, you had to know what you were talking about to get into the loop of those things. Now you got people that end up getting a following and end up all of a sudden being a political analyst, or even had education or schooling or whatever, but they're all of a sudden, educating people or putting up information on their Instagram, which, as you know, is like Explorer page is like scrolling like hundreds of thousands of things per second into people's minds about information. So it's like, what is right? What is wrong? Where does it lead us? What I think about misinformation is what is going to be the outcome.
Right. And that's the scary thing, because it's almost like guerrilla warfare with the overload of the misinformation to purposely make somebody confused not feel like they know what they're talking about or what they're reading or what they're hearing. And when they voice that out and then they look stupid because they're just regurgitating what they've been spoon fed, it makes it even worse. But, we
Absolutely right.
right now, like you said, misinformation and information overload or fake news, as they've called it recently, it's not new. It made it easier
At all.
and more of a manipulative tool with the internet. But I mean, you can go back to instances like the Gulf of Tonkin, where they used that instance to draw us into the Vietnam War. It wasn't fake. There was really conflict going on in that sea, but it was exaggerated and the it was deceivingly used to draw and persuade the masses of the United States into saying, "You know what? We need to be involved in Vietnam." And
Yep.
that's misinformation.
Yep.
So, we live in a world now where opposing opinions aren't welcomed. They're not. If you disagree with somebody, you're the enemy. They're dangerous.
You're not
Uh
even continuing like conversations at work. Like they're going to go the opposite way. Like,
Oh, yeah, they'll ruin 10-year relationships because you like the orange man and I like the gray-haired man type
yep.
stuff, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy. It's like, I come from an age where debate was welcome, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
We argue, we don't agree on everything, but you know what? At the end of
Yes.
the day, we still homies, we still tight, you know what I
Yes.
mean? So,
Yes.
I feel like with the information overload that it's made people, and I know we touched on this before, it's made people want to react emotionally and not logically, and I think that's by intelligent design.
Of course. Of course. I think it's just really leading up to it. Like you said a great point. You had a great point where you said, it's nothing new, you know what I mean? And so like hopefully anyone watching the episode is not like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, misinformation. But what I think this episode is more about is like kind of uh first of all, just general information about it and just general talking about it, but also where is it taking us? How important is it? You really don't see it actually be talked about much as far as media or social media, because both sides are claiming misinformation and disinformation, or five sides or however many sides it is. Um, but it gets like deep. What's funny is like seeing all these organizations and stuff. It's like you think there's a problem with like Democrats and Republicans. Like there's nonprofits at war. There's people that are just absolutely going crazy on each other for over misinformation, trying to see who's right, who's wrong. I think the shit will hit the fan eventually, and it's going to be really bad. It's going to be really, really bad. People are going to, I think you said it. I think you said that the, what was it? The consequences are are in front of us right now, and we're already seeing it. You know what I mean? What's happening and taking place with it.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing too with certain instances of misinformation is like something that take it with what's happened in the past 2 years, something that was considered misinformation 6 to 12 months ago is now considered fact and
Yep.
recognized by what people consider experts and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, it's just tricky, dude, and I know when you were on the show before, we had talked about, the war on our consciousness.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the purpose of it
Yes.
still, is a
One
war
hundred
on our
percent.
consciousness. I don't know the end game either. I probably don't wanna know the answer to the end game, to be honest with you.
Man, I feel like I do, and yeah, it's not pretty. I think like it's definitely, there's something very deep behind it, to cause this much confusion. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is we live in the United States. Internationally, it's the same thing. So people are completely deceived by their governments, by their you know uh, predecessors, their mentors, their teachers, their freaking anybody that they didn't teach them well. They didn't teach people well, like about how to be open minded and how to be it's like perfect. The show's name, Open Mind Show. If you're not open minded, you know what I mean. You can't understand what's right or wrong, or what was misinformation, or what. I was just talking to somebody, and they were telling me about, this is really dangerous, like animals and like killing a bunch of different species in the ocean and this and that. And I'm like, that's crazy. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't once say, show me the information on that. Where's the show me the statistics? You know what I mean?
Fact check that.
Yeah, fact check that. It's like, do I need to fact check that? No. Is he telling the truth? Probably. You know what I mean? Because he has no agenda behind it. You know what I mean? He's not asking me to pay him $500 to get more information. But I think it's really scary, though. It's really scary because you could be like talking to someone, and be like, and just kind of like stop mid-sentence because you just totally realize that they have no idea what you're talking about. They're on a whole nother page as far as information goes, or where they got their information, or how they look at information, how they perceive information. We have a inclusive recreation class about people with disabilities, and we actually discussed perception. You know what I mean, of what people think about people with disabilities and how they think they're inspirational. I've always said people with disabilities are inspirational. That's the worst thing you could say. You can't. I didn't know that. I thought that was like a positive thing.
I didn't either.
No, so the example they give is like, oh yeah, thank you. Yes, I did wake up in the morning and I do have a job. I do things. I know you have those things, but you think it's crazy that I'm doing those things, but I just have a physical ailment and I'm learning to, the lady said, I'm learning to deal with my body just like how you deal with your body on a day-to-day basis. I'm not inspirational. You know what I mean?
I still learn things about my body.
Yeah. And so to bring that background about information is, we don't even have the correct perception of disabled people. Mm-hmm. We give more rights to not saying it's wrong, to whatever, transgender equality or whatever, but we don't give, disabled persons rights. You know what I mean? And so, and they have some that just started in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that. So it's not new. It's very new where people that are disabled are actually given rights. Point being is, misinformation is on all levels. You're misinformed about disabled people. We are misinformed about how to do research. We're misinformed about almost every aspect of our life. You know what I mean? Including myself. I'm not saying like, oh, I catch everything. But yeah, we're drastically misinformed. And now in the political arena, mixing with your regular everyday life, the information that comes out on a day-to-day basis is really overwhelming. Like you said, information overload. And then you just focus on things that really have no impact on your life. They may, but they probably won't on a day-to-day basis.
You're tricked into believing they have an impact on your life.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what it is. And it's, it's like you said, and like I've said, I'm guilty of it. I've regurgitated information that I've received without looking into it before. Guilty as charged. But you got to be careful of that. It's not worth losing a lifetime friend over.
Credibility.
Yeah, it's okay to disagree with people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's okay. Oh man, the most important thing, it's okay to be wrong, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think that's just like we touched on. It's like it's all designed to get you to react in an emotional manner rather than sitting back and go, okay, let me look at this from all sides. Because there's always this side, that side, and then what really happened. And I know you touched on the news and journalism too. And I think that's another big thing, is that somewhere a line crossed from reporters to commentators. And the difference being is that a reporter will just report a situation or an incident and then leave it at that for the viewer to decide. A commentator commentates their opinion on a situation. So,
possible agenda behind that. I've been had my eyes open to things like this for many, many years. And I really did see the shift take place with Trump. That was the biggest shift. Not saying Clinton, wasn't a dirtbag or whatever, or didn't lie or put misinformation out there. But for the first time, it was literally a recording Mexicans are rapists.
Mhm.
And then you hear him, and then you actually would hear people say, no, he didn't say that. And I go, I saw the recording. Like, he didn't
Mhm.
say that. Did you watch it? What he said after that? He didn't say that. That's not what he meant. You know what I mean? And so that's when I first started noticing complete right in front of your face. I mean, and like I said, throughout history, of course, you see it all the time, but people would be ridiculed if it was caught live on camera. For the first time, I started seeing stuff caught on camera live, and people were like, no, that didn't happen. You're like, I could YouTube it right now and show you. You know what I mean? And I actually said that to someone. Someone actually got an argument with that. They said he never called Mexicans rapists. I go, I watched it with my own eyes. It wasn't a commentary. I watched it live. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't spliced together.
They
It's
did
like,
this. They did the same thing about when he was talking about MS-13, but as far as the opposite, with him saying that they're animals, and then the headlines the next day were Trump calls Mexicans animals, and so
yeah,
it works the same way.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all to deceive with an agenda. I mean, if you're calling somebody a rapist, that's not a deception.
Yeah,
Just don't get me wrong there. Like, that's
that
not a
means you've done an
deception.
illegal act of raping
Right.
somebody.
But the fact that somebody like sees it in their face and like still doesn't believe it is denial. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think you're onto something there. Is that another thing is that you have to understand, for anybody out there listening, that if you're in the arena that we're in of truth seeking or conspiracies or the open-mindedness, this is normal for us. For some
yes,
people, they can't or don't want to digest this information.
yes,
They
yep,
have a comfort bubble that they don't want to leave.
yes. We all know people like that in our lives.
Right. So, I mean, that's another problem. Like you said, I don't think we've been taught enough how to keep an open mind on that. You know what? Everything that's in my comfort bubble may not be everybody else's life.
Yeah, I'm not like a Biden supporter or something, but I like Biden. I don't mind him.
Mhm.
But like, I saw him fall asleep or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, the fuck is he doing? You know what I mean? Like, but if you show that to a real Biden supporter, they'd be like, that's fake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, no, man, I could YouTube it. What do you mean? It's like, you could look it up, and at this age, you should be able to somewhat be able to know about splicing and editing and all this stuff and whatever, but it's like, it's shocking. Like, I talk to a lot of people, man. I almost do it on a sociological aspect, where I'm like, I want to pick this person's brain and see what they're thinking. You know what I mean? And why? Because, hey, I'm Iranian, from a whole different era than this person I'm talking to, and this is a 60-year-old white man, and I want to know what he thinks. You know what I mean? About how he looks at the world. And every time you talk to somebody like that, I love them. Like, I've become friends with people like that. They're normal, even when they say funny things. You know what I mean? And I'll be like, that's great, man. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm still their friend. I actually still respect them. All I think about is, oh, they were raised this way. That's the only thing that goes through my mind. I go, they were raised this way. I know you grew up friends with many different types of people. I grew up friends with many different types of people. That gave me an open mind to begin with, where people couldn't just tell me, oh, you're friends with whatever. I don't want to say any stereotypes, but like, you're friends with this person and they do that. Oh, did they do that when you were at their house? Or like, no, like, you talking about? You know what I mean? So it's like, it is crazy that some people at older ages still haven't figured this stuff out about who's trying to trick you and who's trying not to trick. Actually, I had another person I was talking to. He was like a Biden supporter, and he was like, oh, did you see what Trump did with this and that and da 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 da? And I was like, yeah, like, yeah, I don't like Trump either, but it was this and that, and this was behind it, blah blah blah. And he's like, yeah, no, it wasn't. He's a bad person. Like, it's just not even. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't even go into the whole thing, and like, I don't even, not a fan of Trump at all. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you got to be you can't. Your credibility goes down if you just say whatever I say is good and whatever you say is not. Like, can't work.
Well, not only that, but just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean that they didn't do something right or they didn't do something good
Yes.
or that certain things that they did say weren't effective. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
weren't effective. So it goes the same for Biden. It goes the same for Trump. To touch on talking to older generations, you got to look at not only how they were raised, but in the times that they were raised too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a certain ideology and a certain, I think with every generation, it's different as far as how they came up, because even though every household is different, there is kind of a mass sociological way about of the times that were
Yep.
brought up, like how the 80s versus the 90s were
Yep.
completely different. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because it was the 90s was the coming of the internet. It introduced the internet and shit like that. Where in the 80s it was like, dude, writing a letter and sending it out was the fucking
Yeah.
shit, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you introduce emails, you're like, what the fuck?
I
So
lived through all of that and it was crazy because I really was there for a transition of many different things. And it's like, it is insane. Like I'm still old school, you know what I mean? So it's like, what do I think? Like, yeah, somebody freaking write you a letter. They like you. They
absolutely.
appreciate you in your life.
Back.
You know what I'm saying? And in their life. Today, dude, you might not even get a call back for 5 days from your best friend. You know what I mean? Like it's just and people are like, okay with it. I think there's a word for it, but it's like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a generational where every generation thinks they're better than the previous generation.
Mm.
Or the new generation is going way too fast and they're not going to last and they're I can't believe it, you know what I mean? And so it's really just a psychological aspect, and it's like at which point do you stop the mouse wheel from going, you know what I mean? And it's like at some point you got to just be like, and I've gotten to that point for some time where I don't even care. You could tell me Biden's an alien, I'd be like, man, what's his next move? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. What's the plan?
What's the plan? Because at this point, nothing's going to surprise me. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so,
So
but
and I feel on another aspect too with the internet. So like we talked about like the Gulf of Tonkin and shit like that, and that was a serious issue that took
yes,
place because of you could call a false flag operation.
yes,
Which
created hundreds of thousands of lives lost, and just people tortured, and money lost, and time lost, and just oh my god, just a horrible outcome for
terrible,
a
yeah,
lie,
and
for a lie.
so now you have the internet, and then there's like misinformation. Like I don't know if you saw that video that was supposed to be a security camera footage in Mexico of those birds that flew up and got supposedly it was a microburst, B 5G radiation, or C they ran into power lines and like 100 birds came down at the same time.
Yeah,
All which I'm not. I totally have dug down the rabbit hole in 5G.
yeah,
Microbursts exist. There's
yeah,
electromagnetic radiation everywhere. It's coming off
yeah,
of our cell phones, our computers.
yeah. I just
But
saw some crazy
you
shit.
you could watch that video and clearly see that it's in rewind.
Oh wow.
The video is in rewind. So like when you watch from the corner, like it's like almost towards the end, a bird comes from the left to the right and he's flying backwards.
Oh,
He's flying backwards. So what they did was they
I
heard a
didn't even
noise.
catch that.
Yeah, they heard a noise and took off, and they just put it in rewind, so it looked like they came in, landed, and then took off and fell down. So and that's a prime example of like how easy, like we talked about, misinformation gets spread, and like I see people everywhere like, oh, look at this microburst, or look at what 5G is doing to these birds,
Yes,
and there
it could be.
again, yes, there is mass fallouts of birds that have
Yeah.
happened and have been recorded
Yes,
through
yes,
scientific studies and
yeah.
findings. So it's not completely false, but that particular instance was pushed as a rewind video of misinformation, and just see
Well,
how
let me
easy.
just tell you, that's an amazing example because two things. One, I didn't catch that. Two, the news, probably CNN, wrote a big bird dropping out of the sky or whatever was a predatory attack.
What?
And so I sat there and thought about it for a second. I said, okay, I'm going to run with what they're saying. You know what I mean? like 7 bald eagles like coming at him like at full speed, like, and then the birds just went straight to the cement. Like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? How a predatory attack would lead 100 birds to fall down. Like you said, I've seen other stuff. It's been, they have like, I haven't seen a bird one, but like in Long Beach, a 100,000 fish die every like, or 200. I don't know, but it was a day where they're like, oh yeah, this happens every few years. I'm like, what happens? The smell is horrible. And they're like, just like 100,000 fish wash up dead. You know what I mean? No one ever, no, they talked about it for like 2 weeks and that was it. You don't know what the hell happened to those fish. You know what I mean? Or how they died. And I'm sure there's a scientific reason behind it. I can't remember what it actually was, but.
So see, I'm wondering if
information.
Go ahead.
I was just saying information is like, how do you decipher that? And then at that point, once again, how important and valuable is that information? Now, if you see a picture where they're like, a nuclear bomb just went off in Japan and in 8 hours, the fallout's going to be here. That's different. Now you're like, oh shit, I got to make a decision now, like based off this. You know what I'm saying? But if it's not something like that, like what do you, the hell, you know, and I get it, like political commentators, agitators, people that have shows, people like us that just want to discuss different things, not necessarily to prove a point, but just to discuss different shit. It's like, it makes sense. You can say what it is, but don't claim it's real or claim that it's the only way to think or the information is completely legit.
Well, and it's fucked up because what if somebody shared that on a social media site, what you just said about a nuclear fallout that just hit Japan and it's about to come here, or a nuclear bomb that went off in Japan? What if the source that it was posted said on the bottom in small little letters, theonion.com? You know what I mean? And nobody caught it. You know what I mean? So everybody's just posting, oh, a nuclear bomb just went off in Japan and we're about to get fallout in 8 hours.
Actually, the first time that happened was similar situation was, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a big deal historically. It was a radio station did that about an alien attack.
Yeah, in the 30s, or was it
30s?
Yeah,
50s,
it was the War of the Worlds.
Yeah. They were just reading the War of the Worlds, right?
Yeah, he was telling a story about it online.
Yeah, and people started like, you know, going to get water and people were freaking out, loading their shotguns.
People jumped out of windows.
Oh my God.
So
that's a little bit more than I knew.
He explained on the beginning of the radio broadcast that this is fictitious. This is a story that I'm just going to broadcast on air. It's totally made up. And people that tuned in late, like that missed that, we're just hearing that the city's under attack right now. And he did it so detailed and so vividly that people were literally jumping out of their apartment buildings and high rises and shit.
Oh my God.
They thought the world was over.
So talk about the power of misinformation. You know what I mean? It's like, I think if that happened back then and people saw the product of that fake, or not fake, but just him telling a story on the radio station, it's like, imagine what they discovered from that little experiment. They're like, holy shit, we can do this over and over and over again.
Dude, and that's exactly it, bro.
Silent weapons and quiet wars. So, and I didn't come up with that. That was, you know, from Behold the Pale Horse. And that was his last chapter. Wow. One of his last chapters is silent weapons and quiet wars. That's all you need to know.
And so look, this is leading into another part of misinformation that I feel is hella crucial. So 9/11, whatever your thoughts may be on it, if it is a false flag, nobody is saying that people didn't die. Thousands of people died. In the Vietnam War with the Gulf of Tonkin, thousands of people died. The motive behind what led up to those instances are what are in question for legitimate conspiracy theorists and truth seekers.
Yes.
Because of misinformation or deception on information that was let out, or truth that was stretched to persuade us for an agenda. So it's like the QAnon factor. When QAnon first came out, there was like truth bombs that hacker legitimately dropped. Because right after Anthony Weiner, Harvey Weinstein, like all these guys started getting exposed in
Cotton
Hollywood and
cases.
stuff. Right. And so I called it out, and I've talked about this before on my stories on Instagram. Is like it's the same thing with the misinformation overload, where they purposely program it to where you have to dig through opinion, false
Shit ton of
information,
shit.
opinion before you get down to the nitty gritty. It was like they literally they found out whoever QAnon was, they wiped them, they took it over, and then you start having, oh, you hear that Trump speech, he sent a secret message and
Yeah.
QAnon's on, you know what I mean? And it's just super extreme. And it's like, dude, they purposely wanted to discredit the conspiracy theorists, because how many conspiracy theories in the past 10 years actually have turned out to be palatable?
Oh my God, probably 80% of them.
There's
Um,
quite a bit.
yeah, I mean anything over 10% or 20%, you know what I mean, is like shouldn't have happened. Uh, it goes back to even shit the one episode we did about solutions. What is the solution though? So it's like so we are 100% aware there's misinformation being spread, 100% sure there's disinformation, 100% sure there is propaganda, all this stuff, you know what I mean? So if tomorrow they were to release documents saying that 9/11 was done by the United States government, nothing, when I say nothing, nothing would change. Nothing. Zero. Not even a 1% change.
Look at the Hillary campaign.
Yeah,
Information that just came out was spying on an active president. That was a conspiracy 4 years ago.
Yes, and also,
nothing happened. Nobody's posting it. Nobody's screaming from the rooftops. Nobody's protesting about it.
Left Greece. Tom Hanks left Greece. He didn't eat babies, although he may like it or may have done it. He left Greece. He never got arrested. You know what I'm saying? And Oprah has a network. Ellen DeGeneres did lose her show, but she has other shows coming out now.
Right.
But it's insane. What I think it boils down to what you just said. It's just to cause mass confusion. There's no other way there's no other way that Ellen DeGeneres lost her show because she rapes kids and eats kids. You know what I mean? Like
she's selling children on Wayfair through those cabinets.
And by the way, there's plenty of real documentaries, because I am not taking away anything from anybody or anything. There's plenty of real life documentaries, not of celebrities, but of real life people, kids that have dealt with those disgusting, animalistic, sick things that we heard about certain people and celebrities that they do with kids, babies, all this stuff, that it happened. They arrested them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rich circle in London. You know what I mean? There was one girl said she had 13 abortions. She saw them eat her baby in front of her.
Jesus.
Her grandma took her there. So her grandma's in jail for it. Mm-hmm. It happened. It was real. They found the mansion that she was going to, and they were doing this stuff to her. You know what I'm saying? So it's happening, and people, I don't want to take away from that. You know what I mean? But what my whole point is what, like, do you think you saved the world saying Ellen DeGeneres eats kids? What did you do?
Right.
What was the information? Did you think you surprised somebody? Did you think maybe, I don't know, it's me. I don't know. I've actually, I heard a lot of this stuff so many years ago that maybe I'm numb to them. You know what I mean? But my point is what is the move? You know what I mean? And something funny is going on with certain stuff, like the whole the Epstein shit and stuff like that. How is nobody curious what was on the flight logs and who went to go visit this fucking freak? You know what I'm saying? How is that not a big deal?
Dude, and that's exactly, I just seen a thing today that it was like, think about this. The list of people who donated to that peaceful protest of truckers got out and was broadcasted on MSM, mainstream media. I saw
your post. I was like, wow.
Mainstream media, but yet
ripped them apart.
But yet Ghislaine Maxwell's list of people has yet to see the light of day. Only those people in those courtrooms.
And you know why?
That's
You know
oh
why?
yeah,
They're
but that's a
important people.
problem. That's
Yeah.
a problem.
That's a problem.
And you know what? Going back on the solution, and we touched on this before the show, but when you have experts, and I'll just use the past 2 years as an example, when you have accredited experts that are coming out and questioning what's going on, which we've called opposing opinions, and we'll continue to refer to it as that, are being silenced, deplatformed. In some instances, the states, counties, and cities are coming after their medical licenses and livelihoods and professions. There's a problem. The solution is we need to welcome debate.
Yes.
We need to welcome opposing opinions. You don't have to disagree with the person, but you need to welcome another side of the street and listen, because if you don't listen to people, you breed extremism because they feel like they're
Yes.
not being heard.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's actually a profound thing. That is where extremism comes in. How do you think they get, terrorists, and how do you think they say, hey, did you see what happened? Did you see, what I'm saying? And try to convince people to go join them and do things that they're lying. They're either lying or they're telling the truth. Either way, the point is, at that point, nobody has love. The person that's getting you to do something like that doesn't have your best interest in your mind.
No.
If it was really to switch, or help or do something, they would tell you to go get an education. They would tell you to go become a lawyer. They would tell you to become a, whatever, do something else, but don't do something violent or don't do something, stupid, because that just shows that there's someone having you do something, convincing you to do something. I think the biggest issue with misinformation, we're going to see this come up so much more in the near future, especially with these next elections coming up and everything like that, it is going to be pure chaos when real information. Let me reword that. It's going to be pure chaos when there is no more real knowledge or information anymore. It's just going to be a battle of who can spread the most disinformation and misinformation. And that's close.
For me. We're close to that.
We're very close to that. Yeah, that's all sides are doing that. You know what I mean? All sides of everything, any aspect of anything, environmentalism, freaking industrial prison complex, every aspect of everything is all being lied about. The only thing I can think of that would change that is to completely ignore that stuff. With, once again, without saying too much, like you have to have your own plan. And the more you put stuff out in the atmosphere like that, the more it's going to get shut down, the more it's not going to work, the more it's not going to get planned, and all this stuff. So either do something about it, non-violent, a real plan, you know what I mean? Or just kind of don't talk about it is where I'm getting to, you know what I mean? And even having a show is doing something about it. You know what I mean? You could pass out one pamphlet a year is doing something about it. You know what I mean? But just to post on Instagram and just say you did something, you know what I mean? And just like we were talking about the recycling, people thinking because they just recycle a bottle that they're helping the environment. You know what I mean?
Or that they're regurgitating that they heard Ellen DeGeneres are eating kids. They're helping. It's because they saw it on 10 different headlines from 18 different sources.
Yeah.
And everybody else is talking about it.
Yep. And the messed up part is, once again, there is groups of people that are doing stuff like that. So what happens is you take away from that girl.
You discredit.
You discredit a girl that actually went through that.
It's and the so same you thing.
Say, that doesn't happen. Get out of here.
The same thing that I was touching about with the QAnon is that when he first came out, before he was infiltrated, the things that was being released from whoever it was, whether it was a group or a guy, it turned out to be real. But because they got a hold of it and saturated it, everybody looks at us now and they're like, you hear QAnon, they're immediately shut off. Their mind's already made up. They're like, that's a hoax. That's facts. That, you know what I mean? Like, that's just gaslighting. It's terrible.
All I know is, I don't know what group had said this or put it out, but I don't know if you ever dove into that whole pizza conspiracy, Pizzagate.
Yeah, the Comet Pizza in Seattle and all
Yeah.
that
Did
shit.
you
Yeah.
ever really get into that to like figure out what was going on?
Yes, I did.
So at first I was like, okay, that's odd, you know what I mean? And then I looked into it myself. They had a freaking flyer for Saturday night with 5 guys standing around a baby bleeding in the middle, and that was the rock band that was playing there that night.
Right.
Coincidence, whatever, maybe, you know. But at the same time, why would you want a flyer for a rock show with 5 guys on the front of the rock show with a bleeding baby in the center of a circle of 5 guys standing around? Just something strikes me it's very disturbing, you know what I mean? And so, me personally, you were just to say that was a conspiracy. I think that was real. You know what I mean? Because if 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 the flyer was really from that show, from that pizza place, you see what I'm saying? That's where the misinformation comes in. So it's like
Right.
you could be so certain about something, and that flyer could have never even been at that show. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not
Yeah.
saying which is right or wrong, or I agree or I don't agree.
Right. I mean, I agree too. At a family restaurant, if you're gonna have a live band there, you want it to be family oriented. So
Did you hear the live band?
I did not hear the live band. What? Go ahead.
Unbelievably disturbing.
I was gonna say, was it like a Christian band or something? That ended up being.
Dude, unbelievably disturbing.
So that's
Going
what makes people question
right
it.
along the lines of that freaking flyer, to be singing the stuff that they were singing. I don't even want to say those words out around, but it was just evil stuff that they were repeating. And so it's like, man, you know, remember the magic 8 ball was an old school little thing. You shook it up and it gave you the answer. It's like all signs point towards yes. You know what I mean? Like this, all signs point towards yes.
And,
Do I
and that,
suggest someone go in there like that moron with an AK and shoot into the roof?
dude, that
You
again,
know what I mean?
extremism.
No.
That guy felt like he wasn't being heard, so he was like, "I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna take it into my own hands."
Yes.
Bro, like crazy.
Nothing
dude.
happened.
No,
Nothing changed.
nope. That guy's in jail. Fucking people had to
He
die.
lost his life. Yep.
Yeah,
His family's suffering.
dude. So and I think what made me question it was, you have this guy who's put like his only claim to fame was starting a little pizza chain in Washington. Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential men.
Political
Yeah, political influencers.
men in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and it was just like, wait a minute.
What?
Yeah, wait a minute. Like, how do you end up on Time magazine as one of the most influential guys of 2018 or 2015, whatever it was, in Washington, D.C., if you're just a small time pizza parlor owner? Like,
Obama gave him 50,000. Someone else gave him 50,000.
So, I mean, regardless if it was kids or not, and I choose to believe that there was something very sinister going on with that
Yes,
place
100%.
or in that place. But even if it wasn't, even a logical person has to go, how does a pizza parlor owner in Seattle end up as an influencer, the top influencer of politics? Yeah, in Washington, D.C. And
How?
yeah.
And his bathrooms in his pizza place are disappearing walls. Have you seen that?
No, I did not see that.
You didn't see that?
No, if I did, I probably did. I just like
the guy's recording, and he's recording, and they kicked him out twice, and they didn't know it was him again when he was into the third time recording. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and once again, you don't know if he's editing or whatever, but he's like, that group of 5 people just never came out of the bathroom.
What?
And they're just sitting there, and he's waiting, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom, and it's just like almost like a log cabin, but except with spaces in between, like 2x4s.
Okay.
Or like one, whatever 2x2s or whatever.
So you call them space slats.
Yeah, space slats. And it's just going like that. And he goes, how do I get into the bathroom? And she goes, oh, you just push you push the wall. Like it was something totally.
Wow. Why would you have that in a pizza place?
Okay, hold on. Now that we're on this topic, now that we're talking about it, it's really like, did you see the dude's Instagram?
Which the owner?
The owner?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you see him? Like, this is the murder room?
Yeah, and he has a whole bunch of like weird paintings for sale on his Instagram, like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Or I don't know, his niece duct taped to a lunch table. Did you see that?
Yeah, he had pictures of it in the pizza parlor. That's what they were
It was
saying
duct
too.
taped. They duct taped her hand, and the
Yeah.
kid was like this, and then and then another one. He said taking offers $25,000 or more for a blue-eyed da-da-da baby,
Oh,
and I was like,
bro.
and then people were like, "That's his niece." Oh, you thought he was selling his niece on the internet? It's like,
Why would you joke about that?
why would you disturb? Those are disturbing jokes. Those aren't even funny. I could take some. I'll say some pretty bad jokes. You know what I mean? But those are disturbing jokes. I would never think of that as a joke. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, uh, we'll move on past that. But yeah, misinformation. Freaking, you want to talk about flyers? Guys singing about freaking eating babies in a freaking pizza restaurant, and still nobody raised an eyebrow. Like you said, freaking.
It's the overload, dude. The overload. And
The overload.
I was just talking to my lady the other day about it. I was like, we've literally been turning to fish with our memory, our
Yep.
attention span. It's
Yep.
like literally like,
Just go like that. Just next thing. What's the
yeah,
next thing moving?
what's hot right now is Kanye posting fucking Kim text like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Bro, it's getting really bad, and it's like there's a song by I believe it is Megadeth called, no, is it Megadeth? Run for the Hills.
I'm not sure.
I mean, it's the lyrics are just, it's basically saying run for the hills, because
Yeah.
the shit's so bad. And that, you know, that song was made like 40 years ago or 30 years ago or something. But at the end of the day, bro, people are really gonna have to fend for themselves mentally and physically, and every aspect, you know what I mean? And we're already experiencing it. I don't know how it is out there, but in California, like I'm in Humboldt right now.
Which is Northern California for people who don't know.
Yeah, which is about, let's say, 4 hours from the Oregon border, 3 hours from the Oregon border. On a day-to-day basis, shelves are empty in the stores. I can't find baby water, but I can find baby water with fluoride added. Mind-boggling, you know what I mean? Literally, I'm going to take a picture for you next time. The shelves are empty above it, and below it has 75 2 gallons of fluoride baby water.
Wow.
I can't find non-fluoride baby water. I go everywhere every day looking for it. You know what I mean? I end up getting a bottle here, a bottle there. This is just the beginning. You know what I mean? This is just the beginning. A box of 357 bullets probably tripled in price. You know what I mean? Everything is going up. Meat is up 20%. Sugar, milk is up 15%. All this stuff. This is devastating stuff that's happening. And we are talking about Kanye's text. We are talking about misinformation, disinformation, and people are literally are starving. I'm a senior at Humboldt State.
Congratulations, by the way.
I'm homeless. Thank you. Homeless with nowhere to stay, have money to get a place, and can't get a place. So imagine people that don't have money. Imagine people that are living far worse than I am right now. Even though I don't have a home, I'm content because I can at least be in a hotel for right now. Any second, I'm gonna have to go sleep in my car. Right. Over 15% of college students are homeless. Nobody, when was the last time you saw Fox News or CNN talk about college homelessness?
Right.
But they'll hire a motherfucker for their analyst position, and that was a college student and a graduate, but they don't care about college students. They're not writing any stories about college homelessness, college food insecurity, any of that stuff. So it is basically like misinformation along with confusion of things that don't actually even freaking matter in the world. You know what I mean? And you could see it with every aspect, with every project, with every, when they build new houses, when they build, people aren't doing shit environmentally. They're just saying they are because they put solar panels, you know what I mean? But it's like,
or because they don't use plastic straws anymore when commercial fishing is like biggest pollutant.
Yeah, over 50% of the debris is commercial fishing nets and stuff in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It makes you really realize, like, wow, misinformation, disinformation worked. It worked. And I'm hey, you saw me post about the crack pipe thing. I fell for it.
Yeah.
I posted about it. I actually put some time and effort behind, whether it was 1 minute only, doesn't matter. I could have studied 1 minute on how to build a house.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just put it aside and did another minute later.
And my thing with that shit is too, is what are they distracting us from? Because like you said, they really are giving grants and stuff for drug programs, regardless if the kit comes with a crack pipe or not. Another example of how misinformation is used to deceive, but it's not necessarily misinformation, is when the past 2 years were going on in the height, and people like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, or the Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the UK, or Britain, they were posting how these guys were partying and throwing parties, extravagant parties with no mask, no social
Ted Cruz went to Cancun.
Right. And this would happen multiple times, and people were like, oh, the hypocrisy, because they're pushing the social Well, while that was going on in the UK, they also snuck in a bill allowing police to shut down any protests and not allow them. I don't know if it passed or not, but that was a legitimate bill that they were trying to push in the parliament to pass.
Yeah,
while all that was going on.
Yeah, they don't have a constitution, I don't think, that has the freedom of speech amendment. I'm not sure. I'm sure they have something somewhere, but I'm not
similar to it.
Yeah.
Right.
But ours is really well written in that sense, you know what I mean? But which people don't follow.
Yeah, that's just another example of how they push things that were really happening, and it really is a hypocrisy. But why were they pushing that so hard? And then you start seeing, it's to purposely deceive people so they don't look to the left. They want you to look to the right.
You're absolutely right. I think the answer is two things, and I've thought about this for many, many, many years. One, and I'm kind of leaning towards the first one, is that this is just what happens generation after generation to keep people at bay. If you really just had everybody want to go live in the mountains and live off grid, the world wouldn't run. There would be no engineers. There'd be nothing. You know what I mean? People would just be, I'm not saying that version of the world would have been bad. Right. Saying we're far past that point. You know what I mean? People want 200-story buildings and this and that and all this, and shopping and commercialism and capitalism and all this stuff. So I think one, it's just the way it is. Not that it's you are supposed to accept it. You should do what you want to do. If you don't like the commercialism, don't feed into it. Mm-hmm. If you don't like social media, don't be a part of it. You know what I mean? And so that's one, is just that really nothing's going on and there is no agenda. This is just what you have to do to keep the masses at bay. And then my second one, which is a little further deep into the rabbit hole, is that they're just preparing. We're not able to receive the news that what's really going on in the world at this moment. And so we get bombarded with misinformation until the point where they say, hey, aliens exist. And then you say, oh, that's misinformation. And then all of a sudden you're ordering at Burger King and you're ordering to an alien. And then you go, oh, it wasn't misinformation. Hi, how you doing? Where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm Planet Zorgon. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, nice to meet you. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And so you just get used to it. So I think there's an agenda of something that may be occurring in the next 10 to 20 years that they want to numb us to prepare us to tell us. You know what I mean?
So we're going to get ready to wrap this up here, but I want to know your thoughts on, do you think that even the basic of truths, like we just talked about, as far as like that police law, or it's just something as simple as saying, yeah, we lied about the Russian collusion, or yeah, we lied about crack pipes. They came out and said that. Do you honestly think that people could handle stuff like that?
No.
Mentally?
No, I don't think so. Because of what you said, people will just stop being friends with someone. You know how stupid you'll feel after 10 years hearing that?
Mhm.
You'll be extremely angry and upset. And once again, causing extremism, whether it be now or the future. It's really funny. And I believe, you know, like I'm a little religious and I'm a little superstitious,
Mhm.
but I'm just a little titious. I'm not superstitious, you know what I mean? But um, really, I think God works in mysterious ways. And if you try to do evil things, the truth always comes to the light. You know what I mean? Whoever that, whatever truth that may be, or whoever's trying to, you know, uh, the Vietnam War came, the truth came to light. But what happened?
Mhm.
We went to war again.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then we went to war again. And then we went to war again. And then more disinformation came out. And all that happens is people just really learn from it. They say, oh, well, we can't do another Bay of Pigs or whatever, Gulf of Tonkin. It's like, we got to do something more believable this time
We
around.
got to do Libya and Syria.
Yeah. Places that were like gorgeous and now look like, you know, landfills. But it's like, I think to answer your question, no, I don't think, I think that would make either people more angry or just make people completely like, I can't go back to work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go back to work. Like, people just separate themselves like after all this information comes out. But it'll always just be trickling out. Like, if you look at history, it's always just trickled out. There's been so many lies, so much stuff going on, and it just keeps trickling out. And that's it. It doesn't, nothing changes. The only time it's going to change, I think, is when uh, it's all bad. It's
Yeah.
too late. It's all bad.
And that,
When it's all bad and too late, I think that's when the change will come.
and that's one thing that I am biased on, and that does make me upset, is that after all the things that have came to light that ended up being lies directly to us after decades, um, people still are like, well, 2020 and 2021 we're on the up and up, but we totally lied about the Gulf of Tonkin and brought a whole generation into war. But hey,
Caused over.
this year, we're on it. We're on it.
We're being honest.
Yeah.
We caused such a wave of homelessness in this country that was never stopped because of the Vietnam and Korean War. And it's like, it's insane. I think you're right, man. That is exactly what that's going to be the final result, is just like, hey, we were wrong about that, but we're not lying about this. And people say, well, they're telling the truth, you know. It's not, you know. But at the end of the day, is I always look at it like, man, thank God we get lied to in the United States. I would hate to get
Motherfuckers be
lied.
getting motherfuckers be getting killed in other countries.
You get lied to in uh, Middle Eastern countries, your life is over.
Yeah, you're getting lied
Your
to in the form of a
family's sad.
bullet.
Yes, you're done for the rest of your life. And it's so sad. While, you know, I was out in the Middle East and I was like, that's sad, man. This person really thought he was fighting the good fight and like stood up for rights and did everything. And no one knows his name today.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just dead. Whoever it was like a dude that started a movement. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he's just dead. It don't matter.
Yep.
Martin Luther King just died. There's still so much injustice going on today that Martin Luther King would be like, my God, nothing changed.
Right.
And obviously a lot has changed, but at the base of it, no. At the heart of it, I mean, nothing really changed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just all bullshit. So I think the best thing is, once again, to end off on a positive note, is like, whatever the misinformation is, whatever disinformation you're receiving, try to look at it as much as you can and to see what is the truth. And then when you're looking at it, weigh out the value of what you're studying and what you're doing. Is it fruitful for you to study 6 hours on that we lied about Vietnam? No, you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
It's been established. You don't need to do it no more. You know what I mean? So with new information that comes out, do the same thing. Like, no, I'm good. I don't even need to worry about that. Like, literally, when I heard the crack pipe thing, I said, I don't care if he did or didn't do that. Makes no difference. Because why? Because if they call him out on it, they'll say that we didn't. And then if they were going to do it, they'd say it was a success. So it doesn't, no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But if you want to actually say, oh, I really care about the fentanyl epidemic, you know what I mean? Go start a nonprofit for helping, people that are addicted to fentanyl. You know what I mean? But don't just say like, oh my God, the government put out fentanyl and they dropped off a big bag of it in the, this area and did that and that, which is relevant, but we're so far past that because everything's already been established. Right. All these lies have already been established. There's no more need to say that this is what happened and, whatever, like I had a friend that was from Richmond and he said, dude, my older uncle literally told me he was there, that the police stopped one train in North Richmond and stopped another train in South Richmond. And they were both filled with guns. And they just attacked all the guns. And now you got all of a sudden 10,000 guns on the street. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like everything is designed. Everything is designed. It's like, I think I'm going to go with what Jock said was the final result was everything will organically change. It'll be bad. It'll be ugly. Could be nice, could be whatever, but it's going to organically change. And this type of information is no longer is going to cease to exist. Misinformation, disinformation. There's going to be quantum computers. There's going to be stuff that we're going to finally, I think we were talking about that before, like artificial intelligence is going to be the final say so.
Right.
They're going to be like, he went through every database. You're lying.
Yes, that was another thing that was brought up is like who's going to be in charge of what information the AI is giving.
My God.
Who's going to be in charge of that?
Because we need to start doing different shows, different topics of just because it's all correlated, but it's all so different. You're right. Who is going to be in charge of that?
Right, because what if they just start spreading misinformation and nobody questions it because it's the ultimate AI? They're way smarter and advanced than any of us ever could be. Wow. So, but yeah, man. Hey, thanks for coming back on the show, dude.
Thank you for having me, bro. Always a pleasure, bro.
Absolutely. I always appreciate your thoughts and your words, bro. And
you as well.
Hopefully we'll see you back on here soon, man.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, man. You have a good night.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.